Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ground and Pound podcast, the show where, as always, we're hitting you with them elbows of knowledge. And the ultimate job interview is back again. Week 3 of Dana White's Contender Series is here. And as always, we've got the full card breakdown for you, 5 fights. And before we kick things off, we got to mention last week, both of us went perfect here on the Ground and Pound podcast, looking to keep that momentum rolling. And looking to keep that momentum rolling, we've got my co-host, Carlos. What's happening, Carlos?
Absolutely nothing, brother.
And to kick things off in the first fight here on the Contender Series, we have Darian Abbey, the 6'6" behemoth, taking on Dante Johnson. And I'm going to pass this one to you, Carlos. Who you got in this one?
I ended up going with Dante Johnson, and I don't feel too happy about it. This one I don't feel too confident about. But Johnson is, he's a pretty athletic guy. He's light on his feet. All of his fights have ended in the first round, and you know, he's fighting up at heavyweight. I think he had one fight at light heavyweight. So yeah, regional. All of them going to be knockouts usually. He's got good power. You know, stopping these heavyweights. Even though like in stature he's 6 feet. You know what I mean? But he's pretty muscular for the weight class too. Maybe 205 would be a good home for him. But as of now he's at heavyweight, and I just think that if he hits Abby clean, he could probably put him out or drop him and finish him on the ground with strikes. But um, my only reason I feel that way is because Abby is he's experienced. He's got more fights. He's probably got a longer background in it because I believe that Johnson is just getting into this in the last couple of years. But I just don't believe that Abby's got the skill level or like maybe the confidence in his abilities to slow somebody down with that kind of power and speed. That's something now that he's got to worry about. He's very technical now, from what I've seen. He's slower. He is big. He's long for the weight class, but he he doesn't. We always say like complete fighter or well rounded. He knows how to do everything. He just doesn't know how to do everything well. So I'm going to take a chance and go with Dante Johnson. I think he's going to be explosive, probably land that left hook that he's been putting guys out with. So, yeah, I feel fairly comfortable in that. But experience wise, I feel bad going against Abby, but I'll take Johnson.
Yeah, I just want to point out here the graphics are wrong on your screen. You have Abbey at 7-4 and Johnson at 5-0. Just wanted to point that out for those of you in the comments. Suck it, booze. I'm actually going to go with Abby here. This fight to me is really just a case of whoever lands first. I think both guys here, obviously known for their striking, not known for the grappling. Abby trains over at Killcliff FC, very low volume, tends to be one of these guys that, he's more of an opportunistic striker to me. He's not necessarily looking for, constant car crashes. He's looking to set it up, but he's not necessarily throwing a whole lot out there to really give you stuff to think about. And I put here as well, I don't think either of these guys are very special. I don't think they're UFC level. I think that just goes to show you the level of poor ability here at UFC heavyweight. And to me, the only real skill set that I looked at him on tape and thought, yeah, this guy's actually not bad, is he does show urgency to try to get up if somebody does try to take him down. And I could be a little bit hard on fighters. Maybe this might end up being a great fight, but I think this is probably one of the worst fights on the card for this Contender Series Week 3. When you talk about Johnson as well, he is light on the feet. He does tend to have a little bit more bounce in his step. He does have a nice step-in jab. It's not just throwing an arm punch. He's really stepping into that shot. And he'll need that here, especially against a guy, standing at 6 foot to 6'6". He will switch stances. He does throw feints, especially with his feet. He really likes to get his footwork going in order to throw those feints and kind of, even if it's just to draw out a reaction to land a bigger shot. He will crash the pocket at times as well, stepping in with the right hand. And a lot of his fight, like I said, really just comes down to whoever I think lands first. I'm going to go with Abby to land first, the 6'6" guy having the height and reach advantage here. I think if he pressures on the feet and he gets in the face of Johnson, he can definitely land the knockout. And sometimes Contender Series can be a roll of the dice to me. We see it sometimes with, guys come in undefeated 5-0. The books say that they're minus 300, minus 400, and guys come in and it just comes down to which guy lands first. And I think that the bigger guy here at 6'6" with the reach advantage is just going to land first. That's my prediction. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Give me Darian Abbey to land here. Not confident, but I wouldn't be surprised if either of these guys just find the chin of their opponent. And next up, we have Christian Perez taking on Manuel Souza. And I'm going to pass this one to you, Carlos. Who you got in this one?
I went with Christian Perez, and you know, Manuel Souza. So like both of them pretty much they fought the same level of competition. So I feel pretty good that this is going to be a good matchup. But um, Sousa's the pressure guy, and he's faster, he's more athletic, he's quicker coming in, and I think he's got a little bit more snap, a little bit more rip when he's striking too. Uh, doesn't really set anything up. Uses his physical abilities to just kind of bully you with those strikes. And what I like about Christian Perez is the fact that like he sets up shots, like uses his jab to set up the shots, and he actually uses his striking to close the distance just to get you up against the cage to clinch. And just the fact that you're thinking a little bit in there and not just throwing shots. I'm gonna take Perez in that because they both look like on the feet they both carry some hammers. But the other thing too is I do feel that I, at the Contender Series level, I like to believe that pressure is probably going to be the thing that puts you over. So I could be wrong, and Manuel Souza is the one that just comes forward and starts picking them apart. But I feel like if anybody's going to pick anyone apart, it's going to be Perez to Souza. He's going to find a way to nullify the speed and the power. So I'm going with Perez in this.
Two fights, two different picks here. I'm going with Souza here. I actually went from saying, this previous fight with Johnson and Abbey, I think that's the worst fight on the card. I think this one, honestly, could be the best one. To me, I look at Souza, obviously fought over in the PFL once before, fought in Bellator twice. His lone loss coming against Archie Colgan. No shame in losing to that guy, obviously an undefeated wrestler over in Bellator. Souza putting up a decent fight in that one, ultimately couldn't stop the takedowns. Souza does have takedowns and he does have a decent double leg, but where he really likes to get it done is the power in the hands. He is heavy on top if he does get you down, but those hooks, obviously even the lone KO knockout that he had against Rufi, who's obviously made a big splash inside the UFC, is one of his more claims to fame. When you look at that on the highlight reel tape, that's a good knockout to have. He does blitz with combinations. He obviously he doesn't necessarily stay fundamental and throw behind the jab. He is going to blitz you and throw hooks to the body and come upstairs. And I think that the power is definitely going to be on the advantage side here for Souza. That's just my opinion. But the reason I said that I think this fight's going to be a great fight is when you talk about Perez, tough, gritty Mexican, obviously 13-1 for a high-level set of competition here. Trains at the Goat Shed with Hector Lombard's gym. Trains over there with Jillian Roberts and Eileen Perez. So I expect Perez's victory dance to be maybe another twerk that Eileen and him have been working on over at the Goat Shed. And also, when you talk about his victories, 10 of his 13 wins, 6 coming via knockout, 4 by submission. He come out in one of his fights that I saw as well, flying knee. He comes out very aggressive. The guy's very durable. He looks to scramble, fishes for the neck if he can take you back. Works very, very hard and relentless in the scrambles. If his opponent tries to get him down, he will look to be able to reverse position and get into dominant positions. One of the things I don't like about him, though, he will jump for the guillotine and give up positions, which at times obviously can be dangerous, especially when you're fighting high-level guys who do have good top pressure like Souza does. But where I think this one takes place is mostly on the feet. I think Perez might look to get this one to the ground. I think Souza ultimately is going to be the one pressuring forward, landing the bigger shots. And I think that Mexican toughness isn't going to necessarily be enough here. I think Souza packs that much of a punch. I do think as well that Perez at times can fall into the clinch a little bit. He kind of gets a little bit reckless, crash in the pocket and will clinch. I think Souza being the bigger, stronger guy here with more power, I think he's going to get this one done on the feet. And next up, the name that I'm going to struggle to pronounce, we have Abdurrahman Yakayev taking on Alik Marinzi. I love how I butcher the second name. Carlos, who you got in this one?
I went with Yakayev in this one. Can defensively sneak past some shots, to get to the body. I mean, get to the body lock and get the takedowns. Most of his takedowns look fairly easy, and it's possibly just because of that judo background that he's got. But Lorenz is tough. He's got some heavy hands. Looks to stalk his opponent, but He's not too busy while he's walking them down. So uh, fighters, until he gets into striking distance, Lorenz is kind of gonna just stand outside and be kind of, well, not kind of, but very low volume. But which means that the fight, you know, he may be fighting on his back foot for most of this fight, and if that's the case, yeah, guys who try to take you down, that's an easy takedown for him, and that's just how I look at it. I feel that Lorenz has good striking, like decent striking, but I feel it's not good enough to keep somebody like Yakayev off. And fighting off your back foot to keep the distance between the two, I think that Yakayev's going to get him down. And he does have some very good ground and pound too, from what I've seen on the tapes. So if he gets you down there, he's not looking to submit you. He's also looking to punish you too. So I'm going to go with Yakayev on this.
Yeah, you pretty much took the words right out of my mouth when it came to Lorenz. Obviously, a very, very powerful striker. All of his wins coming via finish. Very terrible level of competition. He does fight over in Iowa. I do think the regional scene of some of the Midwest over in Iowa and places like that, Minnesota, it can be difficult for guys to fight decent level of competition. When you talk about power in the hands, I do think that that is definitely his main skill set. You see, he really loads up on his shots, and that's why I agree with Carlos here. I think him loading up on shots is going to open up some takedowns for Yakayev. Definitely carries power. There's no doubt about that. You've seen with Contender Series, sometimes guys come in, not necessarily the most known products, not necessarily the most skilled fighters, but they carry a pop. They just need that opportunity. Obviously, both guys, 7 fights to 6. It could just be a case of Lorenz lands that big right hand that we've seen in tape study this week. But I'm going to say that he doesn't. I'm going to say that the only real advantage that he has here is that he is probably going to be the bigger guy. He is big for the weight class, very thick in the shoulders and thick in the upper body. Pause. And ultimately, I think that realistically, the wrestling is just going to be the factor here. I think that the longer this fight goes, with a lot of the wins, the 6 wins Lorenz has coming inside the distance, I think that the wrestling here of Yakayev and the grappling is going to wear down on the gas tank of Lorenz here. The longer this fight goes, the more that I think that that's going to play a factor. And even when it comes to the striking of Yakayev, he's very loose on the feet, very elusive, good timing on his takedowns. A lot of his opponents, you see him, he feints a lot. He'll take that level change. Once he gets you to the floor, I even wrote here the same as Carlos. He does go for a lot of ground and pound when he's in dominant positions. He's heavy on top. And I just think that spells a recipe for disaster here for a guy like Lorenz. I think he's going to take him down, wear on that gas tank, kind of build the lactic acid up in the muscles and ultimately find a finish somewhere on the ground here, probably late to round 2 or 3. 2 for Yakayev here. And next up, we have Damon Wilson taking on Marcio Barbosa. Carlos, who you got in the co-main?
Um, I went with Damon Wilson in this one. Both have fought like a good level of competition, a very competitive level. Wilson is like as we were talking about earlier, he's just kind of a hardworking, 9 to 5 kind of fighter. You know what I mean? Like he comes in, goes to the gym, like beats himself into the ground, gets in good condition, comes in, gets good technique, wins his fight. Whereas Barbosa, he's got a lot of physical attributes. He's fast. He's got some power in the hands. He's quick. He can be elusive when he feels like it, and but his defensive skills lacking a little bit. Technique on his strikes look good, and on his takedowns and his grappling look good. But the fact is like when it comes to set it up, he just kind of bowls forward at you. So it's another case of he's just using his physical abilities to win. And I think at the in this fight that could do it. He has a lot of pressure. He comes forward. He's ripping punches, ripping hooks mostly to the body, to the head, and I just think that what I like about Wilson is he's a little bit more relaxed on the feet. He does apply pressure as well, so I have a feeling this is going to be a very good back and forth between the two of them if no one gets put out. He does stand tall, but he does keep his chin tucked, and when in range, he brings up his guard, he checks kicks, and I just don't know if Barboza is going to be able to find the chin, and if he does, like is he going to be able to exploit it? Because Wilson, like I said, defensively he's pretty sound. So it's not the fact that I think he's a better, uh, like I guess athlete, but a better fighter than Barboza. I just think that he does everything just a little bit defensively, a little bit better than Barboza, and I think that's what's going to put him over the top to get this victory.
Yeah, I looked at this one and I thought coming in that I was going to be picking Barbosa. Obviously, the experience advantage inside of MMA is obviously on the side of Barbosa, but I'm actually going to go with Wilson here as well. When you look at both guys, and you look at Barbosa, obviously fighting over in the LFA, rips to the body very well, and then will come upstairs. Obviously stalks on the feet, very, very aggressive. He likes the low kick, will jump guillotine, and really he's all about the finish. He wants to look for the finish at every opportunity that he gets, and to me, that's going to be his downfall in this fight. To me, this fight is overly aggressive, taking on a guy that really likes to pick his shots and use the timing, and that's going to be Wilson. That's pretty much him all day. If you watch any of his fights, he's very composed. Everything has a purpose that he throws out there, and when you look at Barbosa as well, obviously he lost to Gabriel Santos, who's obviously now in the UFC, 2-2 inside the UFC. Gabriel Santos. That's not necessarily a bad loss to have. Over fighting in the LFA is also a decent organization, but Wilson to me stood out on tape as one of these guys that when he's looking for his shots, he's looking for openings. He's not just kind of winging and hoping that he lands. Sometimes I think Barbosa gets a little bit carried away. He has been caught in his losses that way, just being overzealous and over aggressive. Wilson training over at Alliance MMA with Jeremy Stevens and Phil Davis. Obviously, two good training partners to have. Fighting over in Cage Warriors, another good promotion as well. So he's seen a decent level of competition, not necessarily that of Barbosa's, but I just think this fight is just going to come down to him being able to time a shot on the feet where he's looking to, kind of exploit Barbosa's aggressiveness. Wilson will throw knees at every opportunity that he gets. Every single fight that I saw, he's throwing knees, he's getting in the clinch, throwing a big knee. I could see that being the path here to victory, getting in the clinch when Barbosa crashes the pocket, landing some sort of knee to the head, lead to the body. And I just think this is going to come down to composure versus aggression, like I said. Sometimes with the lower level Contender Series fights, obviously the guy could just bull rush a guy, land a big shot, and ultimately that's all she wrote. I'm going to go with the guy here to stay composed in Wilson and get this one done on the feet and exploit the athleticism here. And next up, for the main event here on Dana White's Contender Series, we've got Ryan Goldrad taking on Trent Miller. I'm pretty sure I'm butchering that last name, but who you got in the main event here, Carlos?
I am going with Ryan. You say Gandrad?
Yeah, I'm not sure how that was pronounced.
Gandra? Yeah, I'm gonna go.
Gondra.
I'm gonna go with that one. I think this is a pretty even matchup as these guys kind of fight similar. So I think this is going to be a pretty good fight too. Ganja is very patient, walks down to his opponents, doesn't have a lot of volume, but you could tell that when he's in range, he's throwing a couple shots here and there, and you just tend to see his opponents fall. So he might have some serious thing that I just don't know about. But this is going to be an introduction to the next level somewhat with Trent Miller. So we'll see if he could put him out with one shot. Trent Miller, um, he's he's got a lot of knockouts. I mean, like anybody, if you're going to be considered for the Contender Series and considered to be a good talent for the show to get to the UFC, you got to have a lot of first round finishes or a lot of first round finishes by submission. And they both got him. It's just Trent's a little wild. He throws these hooks from the outside, a lot of arm punches, swings. He's a little off balance at times. Maybe he's just a little overzealous looking for the knockout, but loves to exchange, but in the exchange, I just don't know how that's going to fare with somebody like Gandra, who will keep his hands up and probably just land a straight shot down the pipe. But there's a lot of movement from Miller when he's throwing, his body swinging from left to right. So it's not like he's going to be there to be hit too. So I think whoever wants to change levels in this is probably going to get the advantage. But the advantage would also go to Ganja there if it hits the ground too, because he's very well versed in submissions and jiu-jitsu. And Trent Miller, also, I think he trains out of Extreme Couture, does have a couple of losses by submission. I think it was a rear naked choke and I think it was a face crank is what I saw, or guillotine, something like that. So his wildness on the ground as well leaves him to being open for submission. So I'm going to go with Gandra in this one. I think he's a little bit more physical. I think he hits a little harder, and I think he's going to find a way to get this done, whether it's on the feet or on the ground.
Yeah, two for Gondra here. I have to admit, I think this fight's going to be pretty much a car crash. I think Miller's best path to victory here is swarm him early and often, land a big shot, and get out of there with the contract. But I am going to go with Gondra here. Fought over an LFA, much higher level of competition than Miller. Most of Miller's level of opponents, some of them, most of his wins, not even just his opponents, coming against guys that are barely scraping the 500 mark. Like Carlos said, Miller as well, both of his losses coming from submission. So I think Andre here should really just come out, get the takedown, find the submission, get that contract. Don't necessarily brawl on the feet with this guy. Both guys, like I said, want to cause a car crash. And when you look at Miller's fights, most often he is the one coming forward. He is the one pressuring. He is a very, I don't want to say short, because for 185, 5'11", it's not necessarily short, but he is that short, stocky build. He's very muscular, likes to throw hooks, throws in combinations, very looping, nothing straight. I think that's going to leave Miller to be open and countered, but it's the same for Gondra. He likes to throw hooks. He likes to throw, big overhands, punches, hooks, and I think that leaves him open to be countered as well. So it's kind of whoever decides to throw the straight shot might be the one to win this fight. And even in Gondra's lone loss, he did get countered with a right hand, and that's actually how he lost, was him just being overly aggressive. He does have good body lock trips and takedowns, which is, like I said, I think that would be his best path to victory here. And when you look at Miller as well, and you kind of go back and forth between how aggressive is one guy to the other, I just think that Miller is one of these guys that needs to be able to brawl. I saw in one of his fights that he'll get into the clinch, and he's so eager to basically get into a fight that he gave up his back in the clinch, and the guy took his back just purely because he wanted to, turn and throw more punches instead of worrying about the grappling and the moment of him getting his back taken. But I don't necessarily think that both of these guys are UFC level, but I do think that Gondra has a little bit more to his game than just, winging punches and throwing strikes. I think his grappling is going to be the difference maker here, and that's exactly how I think he gets it done. So 2 for Ryan Gondra here in the main event on Dana White's Contender Series Week 3. And as always, if you're enjoying the content here on the Ground and Pound podcast, keep a mindful eye on the videos coming up here for the full card breakdown that we've got coming up in a few weeks. Obviously, a break in the UFC action. Keep an eye on the channel for some of the videos coming up as well. And Carlos, before we break things down and leave the people, is there anything that you want to say to the people here on the Ground and Pound podcast?
No, I mean, it's been a pretty chill weekend, and I'm just hoping you guys are enjoying the content. We're gonna tell you the same thing. If you do, like and subscribe, and we'll try to do better every week. I guess we'll catch you on the next one.
Yep, looking to make that streak continue. 5-0 last week, looking to hopefully go 5-0 this week. And as Carlos said, if you're enjoying the content, hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Peace.